What it takes to be a great creative, I would say grit. The most interesting problems today are very multidimensional. They are people problems, technology problems, they're cultural problems, there are opportunities they present an opportunity to bring together a very diverse set of inputs, talent, research and insights. And so from my perspective, actually coordinating all of that is the biggest challenge of a creative today. So we often talk about the idea. Sure, an idea is important. The idea is sort of like an is the arc that often ties and brings everybody together. But really, actually executing, delivering on an idea, that's I think where the real hard work is, where the real hard work begins. So personally, with grit comes, I would say, personal optimism. If something takes a long time to fulfill and to make, then you have to be a very optimistic person, almost idealistic in some ways. Yeah, optimistic also for clients, for the problem. You have to become a champion of that problem in order to make your clients optimistic that they actually see something great at the end of that tunnel. Then you need to be able to corral a very diverse group of people. Yeah, perhaps in the past it was being a graphic designer or an art director, a writer, and a production crew. But today, frankly, it's a software architect, a prototyper, an architect, a graphic designer, an art director, a copywriter, photographers. And frankly, that doesn't even include all the different client-side opportunities that need to be coordinated. And so that is time, that is sweat and tears, and I feel that to me is what makes great creative right now. Now, another thing I would say is you need to have empathy. You need to have empathy for people. Most interesting problems today are really people problems. They are user experience problems. They are problems that mean that you have to put yourself in the shoes of consumers, but also into the shoes of clients and their large companies. It's very easy to say, well, we're advocates for the user, as we often do, but frankly, clients have limitations, both in terms of their technologies, their staffing, their culture, and of course their budgets. And so that is another part of that. Being a champion of good work means that you have to be an ally to a client and actually work with them through what it takes to actually make something real. Again, that's grit, in my opinion. Finally, I think it takes empathy. I think empathy both for users, for customers, for the customers of our clients, and our clients and our teams. I think paying attention to these sort of variances, right? We often start projects and looking for opportunity really by trying to put ourselves into the shoes of our users, of our clients' customers. We work in the cafes and restaurants and factories and places that they do, and that to me is actually time. That's great. Ideas sort of emerge from that, insights emerge from that, but again, synthesis takes a fair amount of input and a fair amount of time invested. Empathy is also important for clients. I think great work doesn't just happen. It doesn't just clients don't just look at something and get excited, and often there's this sort of downturn where when they realize that both budgets, internal, cultural, or organizational hurdles come up. And so I'm very focused. We are very focused as a company in actually understanding the capabilities of our clients as well, because often the range of work that we touch right now isn't campaign work. It often starts with the design of products and services that then have to have influence on the way business runs itself on the client side, and then eventually sort of have impact on brand and marketing. So the engagement is a lot longer than 3 or 4 months in some cases. And then finally, empathy for your team. I think big gnarly problems need big diverse teams, need attention to the variety of how these diverse teams actually can be successful. Again, a software engineer, a developer, have very different needs than, let's say, a copywriter and a visual designer, have very different needs to, let's say, an architect or somebody who designs and builds physical products. Now, we all agree to work together, and I think it sort of comes together under this sort of cultural imperative of Huge or of any company. But inside of that, there is still expertise, and expertise needs its own process and its own attention. So from my perspective, that's something you can never shortchange in any company.
One thing that we've found really important is to have side projects that are outside of advertising.
Yes.
It helps you, we've written a screenplay.
Yes, and we've done a podcast.
We've launched a podcast, Lost Takes Balls.
Yes, so when we do stuff like that, it just becomes one of those things where you can kind of come back to work, and work is so much, it's like a fresh perspective.